Welcome back to Comic Cappers. Today we will be capping Absolute Superman issue 3, where the lines between hero and fugitive finally begin to blur. With that said, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. We flash back 6 years to Krypton, where a young Kal-El finds himself on the outside looking in. Deemed too slow and coordination challenged for the elite law guild training, he's shoved aside by his peers. Academic life isn't any easier. His struggles in school make the prestigious Science Academy a pipe dream, and he's clearly out of sync with the rigid expectations of his teachers. But Kal-El doesn't care about the status or the academies. He finds his real joy and sense of belonging in the labor guild and the sprawling, vibrant landscape of the Redlands. Out here, away from the city, he's free. With his parents and their dog by his side, exploring the purple prairies and rolling pink hills, he finally feels at home in the quiet stillness of the countryside. Kal-El reflects on the Redlands, a place of quiet beauty and the only home he ever wanted, standing with his parents and their dog before a massive, crystalline landscape. The mood shifts instantly. While Kal-El excitedly asks about using binoculars to see toward Vega, Jor-El and Lara-El are clearly carrying heavy news. As they try to bring up a message from his teacher, Kal-El's playful demeanor vanishes, and he covers his face in a moment of sudden, palpable dread. Jor-El confronts his son about his academic rebellion, noting that by refusing to use the Science League's tools, Kal-El is effectively challenging 3 millennia of tradition. Kal-El admits his personal writing brings him joy, prompting his parents to reveal they have discussed his future at length. In a touching moment, his parents reach out to comfort him, telling him to keep it up, a surprising endorsement of his defiance. They emphasize that his worth isn't measured by school grades, but warn him that choosing his own path against the Science League will be a difficult road. Jor-El encourages his son to pursue his passion with everything he has, promising that if he does, he will become unstoppable. Kal-El acknowledges his uncertainty about the future, yet he carries a quiet, knowing confidence about where his life is heading. The El family stands at the threshold of their shelter, looking out over the Rao Mountains. Jor-El points toward the distance, saying only, "Right here." They stare into the horizon together. The silence between them is heavy, suggesting they are all feeling the weight of the planet's decline. Kal-El grows concerned, asking his father if he's done something to upset him. Jor-El quickly reassures his son, though he seems distracted by the work he has to do. As they set up camp, Kal-El reflects on the fact that while they visited these mountains before, this specific trip feels different. Jor-El spends his hours extracting deep samples from the rock. The narration reveals a heartbreaking reality. In the quiet of the night, Kal-El hears his parents weeping. Following the trip to the Rao Mountains, the atmosphere at home has shifted. Kal-El notes that his father has become increasingly distant and distracted since his accident at the mine, with both parents now completely consumed by their work. Lara-El is constantly in her garage, intensely focused on building something, while young Kal-El watches from the doorway, caught between his parents' growing obsession. Jor-El brings his work home, clearly stressed. He tells Lara they need more sunstone to be certain of their findings, warning her that they are running out of time. Jor-El is determined to take his irrefutable proof of Krypton's impending doom to the Science League, along with Lara's designs. Lara loves him for his conviction, but she's deeply cynical, already anticipating that the clerics will reject his findings and label him a heretic. Lara pushes back, demanding to know that if their efforts fail and the authorities come to take what they've built, they'll finally stop trying to reason with a system that refuses to listen. Before Jor-El can respond, the conversation is interrupted by a sharp sound from their dog, Krypto. Kal-El calls out to Krypto, who is barking frantically. As he reflects, he notes that life on Krypton was always lethal, filled with diamond-laced tornadoes, acidic rain, and sudden sinkholes that could erase entire communities. He finds Krypto lying on the ground, covered in a strange, glowing green substance. He's clearly horrified, realizing this isn't just another natural disaster. The horror deepens as the realization hits. The ground is littered with dead animals, all coated in that same eerie green residue. It's a sight Krypton had never seen before. Caught in the shock of the discovery, Kal-El describes himself as a quiet, introverted kid who mostly kept to himself. But staring at this scene, something fundamental shifts inside him. A barrier breaks, and his focus narrows as he asks, "Krypto, where'd I leave my bike?" Across the Redlands, the environment is turning hostile. Crops are withering away overnight for reasons no one can explain, leaving the landscape scarred by that same eerie green residue we saw earlier. The wildlife is reacting in terror. Young Kal-El rides past a horrific scene where herds of Zoots have stampeded themselves off cliffs, their bodies littering the ground in a grim display of the planet's rapid decay. The reports of catastrophe are spreading. Fishing in Kago Lake has ceased entirely, and there are whispers that the legendary firefalls have turned into a raging inferno, while the ancient, gold-spewing volcanoes of Olo are now covered in grotesque golden scabs. The tragedy reaches the coast, where pearl divers are reportedly boiling alive in the water. It's becoming clear that the planet itself is sick, and the people most connected to the Earth, the laborers and those working the land, are the first to feel its agony. As Kal-El and Krypto continue their journey through the toxic haze, the weight of this realization settles in. Those with their hands in the dirt are the first to witness the end of their world. As the train winds through the mountains, the official Science League news feed dismisses the planet's worsening environmental decay as nothing out of the ordinary. Inside the train, the other students are oblivious to the reality, marveling at the visible destruction outside while repeating the official narrative that these are just isolated natural gas leaks. But the reality is far more dire. A week after his camping trip, Kal-El's class takes a field trip to Kandor, passing through landscapes already ravaged by the planet's collapse, all while the Science League maintains there is no cause for concern. Haunted by the devastation he's witnessed in the Redlands, Kal-El struggles to reconcile the official lies with the death he saw firsthand. Driven by a need to expose the truth, Kal-El pours his observations into a report, and before he can second-guess the consequences, he hits submit, broadcasting his findings to the entire school's news board. By the time the class arrives in Kandor, Kal-El finds his exposé has been wiped clean from the system, and his parents have been summoned for a disciplinary meeting, a meeting they're never going to make. As they stand before the imposing halls of high wisdom, the facade of Kryptonian order is on full display. The teacher enthusiastically polls the students, asking who aspires to join the elite Science League. Most of the kids seem eager, raising their hands in a display of blind indoctrination. Inside the facility, the teacher attempts to steer the tour away from the clerics' quarters, dismissing their absence as official science business, while rushing the group forward to avoid any inconvenient questions. Looking out from a high-altitude window, Kal-El questions the detachment of the elite, wondering why anyone would choose to work so far removed from the dirt and the reality of the planet. His confusion quickly turns to panic as he realizes he's being apprehended. Jor-El is forcibly detained by Law Guild officers within the Kandor facility. He desperately tries to warn them of the planet's imminent danger, but his pleas are ignored as a concerned Kal-El watches from the doorway. The officers dismiss Jor-El as a mere laborer, labeling his warnings as scientific heresy. As they drag him away, Jor-El continues to fight for a chance to address the clerics, while Kal-El rushes forward in protest. Jor-El catches sight of his son and immediately shifts from defiance to panic, shouting for Kal-El to flee and get a message to his mother before he is silenced. A sharp strike from an officer's electrified weapon leaves Jor-El reeling in pain, effectively cutting off his final instructions to his son. Witnessing his father's brutalization breaks something inside young Kal-El. For the first time, he finds his voice, screaming for the guards to stop as he feels a strange, overwhelming power beginning to surge within him. Young Kal-El lashes out at the Law Guild officer, his small fist connecting with the armored chest in a desperate, futile attempt to protect his father. The officer effortlessly shoves the boy back, knocking him to the ground with a dismissive command. Kal-El is left broken and weeping, watching helplessly as the authorities drag his father away. The trauma forces him to realize he cannot face them alone. He rushes back to the safety of the Redlands, calling out for his mother as the reality of the situation sets in. Lara-El is already in motion, giving young Kal-El strict instructions. If their rescue plan goes south, he's to head straight for the garage and activate a mysterious asset named Saul. Kal-El, understandably confused, just wants to know who or what that is. Before he can get an answer, the suit itself, Saul, interrupts with an automated greeting. Lara cuts it off, focused entirely on the mission. She's going to get Jor-El back. She's armed with a massive, glowing piece of tech, looking like she's ready to tear the Law Guild apart to reach her husband. The scene shifts to the central Law Guild office in Kandor. An unseen officer has already identified Jor-El as the loudmouth miner from the Redlands. They aren't just holding his father for heresy, they've clearly been tracking Kal-El's own writing, and they're ready to drag the whole family in. Lara-El makes an explosive entrance into the Law Guild office. A blast of heat rips through the room, immediately putting the guards on the defensive. She's not here to negotiate. Lara charges forward with Krypto at her side, calling out for Jor-El amidst the chaos of her Lavatech assault. The Law Guild officers are caught completely off guard by the sheer intensity of the attack. One guard realizes with horror that her weapon is firing molten lava, while another, already hit, screams for help. Despite the assault, the presiding officer remains cold, formally declaring Jor-El guilty and ordering the immediate sentencing. There's no mercy here. The officer acknowledges the order and prepares to carry out a lethal injection. Jor-El, still restrained, recoils in shock as something unexpected strikes the Law Guild officer standing over him. Kal-El arrives to find Krypto standing guard over the incapacitated officer. He frantically scans the room, desperate to find his mother in the wreckage of the fight. A dark, armored figure, the sentient suit Saul, enters the fray. It unleashes a lethal-looking green energy, cutting through the defensive spikes deployed by the Law Guild. The air fills with the sound of rapid-fire discharges as Saul systematically clears the area with explosive force. Lara-El stands amidst the chaos, her gear glowing with intense energy as she finishes cutting through the Law Guild's defenses. She reaches her husband, Jor-El, still trapped behind the bars of his containment unit. Lara-El is relieved the experimental suit held up, but her moment of triumph is cut short by a sudden, ominous realization. With the Law Guild forces under assault, a guard struggles to answer where Kal-El is being held. Kal-El steps in, looming over the defeated guard with a cold, ultimatum-driven demand for the facility's access codes. As Lara-El continues her offensive deeper into the law offices, Kal-El surveys the area, struck by the eerie absence of the usual security personnel. Searching the facility, Kal-El realizes the entire ruling class has vanished, leaving the halls of power completely hollow. Accessing a terminal, he discovers the terrifying truth. The elite are building starships to escape the planet. Realizing the betrayal, he calls out to his father in a desperate, urgent panic. As the El family rides back toward home, Kal-El observes his parents, sensing the heavy, unspoken burden they are carrying. Stopping in the open, Jor-El finally breaks the silence, telling his son that they have been keeping a terrible secret and have finally run out of time. Jor-El delivers the crushing truth: Krypton is dying. Kal-El, having already pieced the reality together from his own observations, confronts his parents. He realizes their plan is to send him away alone in his mother's old suit. Overwhelmed, Lara-El pulls her son into a tight embrace, promising that they would never force him to face this journey by himself. Jor-El, Lara-El, and young Kal-El stand before a massive, glowing starship. Jor-El makes his final decision clear: they aren't just saving their son, they're going together. As Lara-El works with the ship's systems, she emphasizes their goal to save as many neighbors and cousins as possible, though she laments the ship isn't big enough for everyone. Jor-El notes that the Science League already knows about their plans, suggesting that their window of opportunity is closing fast. Lara-El and Jor-El look on in disbelief as they process the information on their device. Jor-El explains that the Science League has been secretly hoarding resources to build ships meant only for the elite, leaving the rest of the planet to perish. Lara-El asks where the information is coming from, and Jor-El reveals that the story is already viral across the Luminarium, having been uploaded directly from the Law Guild's own office in Kandor. Kal-El stands apart, watching his parents as the weight of the betrayal settles in. The reality of their situation is no longer a theory, it is a public, undeniable fact. Young Kal-El looks toward his parents, his expression shifting from shock to a grim, focused resolve as he asks the only question that matters now: where they go from here. The story shifts to modern-day central Kansas, where we see the quiet, lonely grounds of Smallville senior living. Inside, two staff members discuss a resident who is in a heartbreaking state. They note that she is fading away, constantly calling out for a son who, according to her official records, doesn't exist. We see the resident in her hospital bed, reaching out toward the sunlight as if grasping for a memory. She whispers for her angel to come back, clearly lost in a past that the world around her has erased. A close-up of her hand, marked with a M. Kent wristband, lingers as she pleads for her son to return to where he belongs, ending on a somber note of isolation. And that unfortunately concludes our comic cap for today. With the revelation that M. Kent is mourning a son who officially doesn't exist, do you think this version of Superman was erased from history, or is he currently hiding in plain sight? Let me know your answer in the comments section down below. Be sure to subscribe and press that notification bell for daily comic caps. Until next time, take care, brush your hair, I'll see you when I see you, peace.